1.3 on that relationship deal. Concentrate on building relationships. Communicate. You understand how they feel. Let them know you've been there. Of course, you can't make this up. I mean, you can't connect with somebody if you really genuinely haven't been there. I struggle. I won't say I struggle. I don't have the same relationship with some of my students that, Eric, you have with some of your students. When I teach a group of engineers, because I'm not an engineer, there's a totally different mindset. Engineers are a very interesting group of people, okay? They're very interesting. And you got to understand how they think. First of all, they know everything, okay? And when it comes to the code and grounding and bonding, they know nothing, all right? And I didn't know that when I started. I think I was teaching engineer, like, oh my gosh, he's an engineer. And then I started teaching engineers, and I realized, you guys don't know what the heck you're even doing. You know less than an electrician, because you don't know anything about the code. You don't know anything about grounding and bonding. You weren't taught that. But so I can't use jokes. I can't use scenarios that's going to connect with an engineer that will connect with somebody that I have a connection with. That doesn't mean I don't have a great time with engineers, because once you get to know how, but you got to know your customer, right? You got to know your student. You got to develop a relationship, and you realize, okay, now I know how engineers think. And I can say things, and I can do things, and we can connect with them. So it takes some time, though. The first time, Eric, am I right? Now, when you teach engineers, see, Eric, you're an electrician, and you're an engineer. So you can easily flow between the two groups, and you understand it without.
I can a lot better now. When I started off teaching engineers, I didn't realize how much of an electrician I was. And so I said things to engineers, and I'm looking out at the audience, seeing these blank stares.
Yeah, there was no laugh in that one.
And well, I'm thinking, okay, because I'm talking about electrical stuff and instead of engineering stuff. And so then I really started realizing, after I started teaching classes to engineers, that, you know what, I need to make more of a distinction in myself. Because yes, there's Eric the electrician, there's Eric the electronic technician, there's Eric the electrical engineer. For me, it all runs together. But in class, it's good to know the context.
Okay, let's move on. Be willing to go the extra mile. Extend yourself on the student's behalf. Do what it takes. Here's a good friend of mine, George Newman. He's up in Niagara Falls. He comes to my classes. I will stay. I will be the last person that will leave the room. I sit there. I get there early. I visit with the students. I hang out with them. I don't know, Brian House, you took my class when you were 19 years old. Did I even have any contact with you at all? Was there?
Very little. I was the guy that sat on the outside of the group and just listened because, I wasn't anything yet. It's just a electrician helper.
Okay. All right. So extend yourself. And I think that's what people appreciate about what I do, is that they see that I'm there. Now, but in the 80s, not a chance. Bruce, do you remember me in the 80s? Bruce remembers me. Bruce's been with me since he's 18 years old. How old are you now? 40 what? 46. So,
there you go.
Yeah, get a shot at Bruce back over there, in the background there. So Bruce has been with me since he was 18 years old. So he saw what a terrible person I was. I mean, terrible. I'm not saying I'm that great now. I'm just saying I was really bad then, okay? So the relationship wasn't important to me at all. It wasn't about them for sure. But now, maturity, wisdom, and other reasons. All right. Try to be sensitive to their feelings. I have to tell you a story. Yesterday, we had some conversation in the office and about a particular staff member. And this particular member is really going to be doing what he's doing and pretty much the way it's going to be doing inside there. And so Belinda was telling a new employee, wow, this person, this and that, and, we work with them, and she's doing all this sweet, sweet, sweet stuff. I look at the guy and say, listen, don't pay attention to what you have to say. This guy doesn't produce, you fire him. Done deal. Get rid of the guy. So some people are really, really, really sensitive. And so therefore what they do is you got to be careful that they kind of allow poor behavior. They allow, they lower the standard because they're trying to be sensitive. So I'm a sensitive person to a level, but also I'm trying to wake you up. I'm trying to make you realize that you can be better than what you are, And if I see that you're not doing a very good job, you're not really making the effort I know you can, I'm going to let you know. Hey, listen, I care about you. See, the first thing is, I truly care about you, and I'm disappointed with you. But I got to be aware, however, of the person's feelings, who they are. Because you're not trying to crush somebody, so therefore you just dispose of them. That's not your goal. Your goal is, you got to be real careful when you're dealing with individuals, you got to be aware of them and their sensitivity, and you got to be aware how you communicate it. Of course, me saying, well, fire the guy. Well, we don't fire anybody. Everybody works for me for life, but it's nice to be tough, but in reality, I'm not. Let's go on. If you're bored, they'll drift with you. Let's see. I was bored, I remember, in the 80s, teaching a voltage drop class. And I can't tell you how many hundreds of voltage drop classes I had taught. And I was teaching the class, I was bored, and I was nauseous. I was thinking, I'm going to throw up if I teach another voltage drop class. I was like, I was doing a voltage drop class and thinking something else as I'm working out the problems. Because I'd done this thing so many times, I was using a blackboard, actually, green board, whatever it was. I mean, that was, you write it all out, and 4 horsepower, and the motor's going to be this here, and it's going to be this many full of currents, and you can't even read it because it's all messed up, because I don't really care. I'm just trying to go through the motions inside there. We'll talk about this later on, but you got to be careful when you teach a subject. If you start getting bored, you're not going to be a great instructor. You need to start rethinking, say, okay, I'm getting burnt out here. I need to do something different here. Anybody have any experience with kind of like getting a little tired of teaching again? Give me some feedback. Brian?
Well, I'm not necessarily from the teaching side of it, but I've been a student in numerous college classes where you can tell the professor's been teaching the same class for 10 years and just isn't into it. And then you can have the same content delivered by somebody else and just be like, wow, this is amazing. And then realize later, it's the same thing I heard, just somebody that was into it versus somebody that was just totally bored with what they were doing.
Isn't it interesting how just the emotional state of the person, with everything being exactly the same?
Yep.
I mean, it takes me to the concept of a coach, right? Getting 5 exact same players, right? But having 3 different coaches. One could care less about anything. And one is like on your case. This is not, don't give me about, I don't want to hear about that. Get out there, do this, do that. Everything being to say the same thing, but look at the difference in the performance. One person doesn't want to disappoint the coach, right? The other one doesn't care because he doesn't care. I don't care. Hey, listen, I used to tell you a story. Somebody watching this DVD might remember this. Sometime I'll tell you the story later on. It's an interesting story. It has to do with getting out early. Make sure I cover that story. All right. If you're bored, boy, it got to be tough. Brian?
Well, I think as an instructor, it's honestly kind of hard to not get bored sometimes when you're teaching code, when you're teaching seminars. I know every time that we're just getting towards a new code cycle coming out, I'm always really excited because I need something new to teach. And I really try to make an effort to not be bored with the material that I'm teaching because the audience knows it for a fact. You know, everything that you're feeling, the audience is feeling as well. And I'm sure we're going to talk about this later, how you feed so much off of each other. If the class starts poorly and they're not into it and you're not into it, it's probably going to go downhill. And if it starts great, it's probably going to go uphill because you feed off of each other. So, not getting bored, it matters. And, and if you're in the business of teaching for 8 hours, you need to not be bored all day long because the second you get bored, it's gonna slide away from you.
Eric, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, and this is why I love lively classes. I like lots of questions because I may be teaching the same material, but I have a different class every time.
Right.
And so they've got different experiences and different questions, different contexts. And so for me, the most important part of a class is the response to the very first question. Because if the student asks a question and if I say something like, hey, you don't really know anything, that shuts down the whole class. But if I'm excited at answering the question and I say, hey, that's a great question because, I forgot to cover that or for whatever reason, and I show the class I'm excited to entertain questions, then the whole class springs up, it gets lively, and every class is new and it can't be boring.
Well, if you get to class early, you meet the students, You find out they like this, they find that, you talk about different things. In your class, you can kind of throw things out knowing I'm going to drive that guy crazy. Say, hey, man, what about Jimmy Johnson this weekend? Knowing the guy's a Jeff Gordon fan or Earnhardt fan. So you kind of like engage the students. You kind of ask them things. You kind of can play with them. And you want them to be relaxed enough, like, wait a minute now, what are you talking about? You got to get a little playfulness in the class. Also, what we've done is we've created multiple programs. And Ryan, you've had this. Code changes. Well, there's a point they're like, okay, I'm really tired of teaching code changes. Okay, we have grounding and bonding. Okay, well, there's a point I get tired of. And then we have what we call the essentials, electrical essentials. These are the important rules. The most important rules, about 50 rules, that if people would follow those 50 rules, forget about everything else, you're not going to cause a fire, and you're not going to cause electric shock. You're not going to electrocute anybody. So that kind of gives you that variety, that change. Okay, electrical essentials. I'm going to cover those fundamentals. I'm going to cover grounding.
Yeah, the other thing real quick is sometimes, if we're in the electrical field, and I've said this before, we're all over our heads because the electrical field is too big. And so sometimes I've been in front of class, say 50 engineers or more, and someone will ask a question that is not in my expertise. And so I'll say, you know what, I have no clue. I said, can anyone in the class answer that question? Invariably, someone starts answering the question very professionally, and we all learn.
We'll talk more about that, but that's another way of engaging the class, right? We're talking about a relationship, engaging the class. It's fun for us. We're teasing them. They're teasing us. All right, let's move on. If you're having a good time, which we talked about that, they're smiling and enjoying themselves with you. Everybody's having a great fun time. If you like and respect them, they like and respect you. Let me think if I ever had a scenario where I didn't like or respect a group. I don't think there was a class I didn't like. Yeah, the only class I think I didn't like is I was doing a seminar for some pharmaceuticals, and I found out as I was doing the class, that there was nobody in the class electrical. They're all chemical engineers for a pharmaceutical company. I'm like, boy, did that really mess my day up. Man, I did not have any fun. I did not like teaching this class at all. It was just, they're just standing there watching you, making notes. You're like, why are you making notes? You have no clue what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? So kind of, whatever. So that wasn't any fun. Continuing on, use real life examples the students can relate to. This is where you take photos and you integrate that within your PowerPoint, your own little crazy photos. You see something funny, you talk about things that, I remember that. Oh yeah, I remember doing this. Oh yeah, I remember doing that. People can connect with. You got to be thinking, I know who my audience is. This is engineers. So I got to make sure I use engineering jokes. I got to so images inside of engineers would like go crazy about. I'm going to make it real life for them. And then again, I'm teaching a bunch of apprentices. You know who the worst class to teach with? My most intimidating class was last year in the spring. I taught the IEC Chesapeake. They had 400 kids from 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th grade. I'm teaching them. They're all kind of like, they check the wood shop one week, and then they go to the electric 1 week, and then they go to the plumbing and the carpentry. You know what I'm saying? And so now there's 400 kids, and they want Mike Holt to say something inspirational. I was freaking. I mean, seriously, I was terrified. And they're like, Mike, what's wrong with you? I'm like, man, I've never been this afraid in my entire life. Because I didn't know my audience. I didn't know what I had to say in any way was going to be able to connect with them. And I'm used to teaching adults. And these are like millennial kids. You know what I mean? That's a whole different generation. You know what I mean? So it's a difficult thing, right? To connect with that age group. That's what I do. Hey, why are you here? What are you doing in school? You try to find out, try to get some information inside there. And it worked out very well, but it was stressful. But I had to be aware, right? If I just got there and didn't think about it and just did my own thing, every time I did a seminar, I'm not going to be a great instructor. And see, I want to be a great instructor, not just an instructor. Okay, this goes on. Having that real life example drives home the point. Having them feel like you're speaking directly to them. You know what I'm talking about. We've been there, man. I mean, we're talking about raceway fill. If we're talking about how many wires can fit in a raceway, I'm like, how many of you guys learned raceway fill and did the calculation and then ran the pipe so that you could pull that wire in that calculation, and then you did it code compliant, you realize, I will never do that again. Because, it works. Mathematically, it works. But if you ever attempted 40% fill of a raceway with conductors, you would only attempt it once. Have you guys ever tried that?
Yeah.
See, now watch what I just did there. I was telling a story that only somebody who's actually done the calculation, who knew it's properly sized, figured, hey, instead of going to a 2.5-inch raceway, I can use a 2-inch raceway, because 2.5 is a lot more money and the fittings and everything than 2-inch. So, hey, code says 2-inch, I put a 2-inch in there. And then when they attempted to do it, they realized, oh my gosh. So, and I said, and I asked the audience, right? I asked these guys, how many guys have done that? And they started laughing and joking and raising their head. That's the relationship. We're getting real life examples that we can connect with. Eric?
On my power distribution midterm in college, we had to design this power distribution system, and part of that, of course, was the feeder. And so the NEC said that we could put that feeder in a 2.5-inch raceway. But I put down on my exam 4-inch, and then I put parenthetically, have you ever tried to pull this kind of wire through a 2.5-inch raceway? And they gave me 100 on it, so it worked.
All right, let's go on. Continue that relationship. Don't hide your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities. The students will identify with you. I think, and you guys have all taken my classes. Eric, I don't think you've ever taken a class of mine, have you? Actually taken a class. You've only
Not
been
an
to the
actual
DVD
class.
Huh?
No, not an actual class.
Not an extra class. Ryan, you have seen me teach, right?
Yeah, a couple times.
And Brian, you've seen me teach many, many times. I'm Mike Holt. I mean, I'm stupid a lot of times, and I'm really not that smart. Truly, ask my wife; she'll tell you. Trust me, he's not that smart. You know what I mean? And I'm arrogant, and I'm impatient, and I work on these things. And these are things I'm good at. These are things I'm not good at. And like you said, Eric, hey, I don't know. Don't listen. I know sometimes people feel that because they're instructors, that they're supposed to come across like they're pure and they're perfect and they know everything, and they listen, when you act like that, then you're disconnecting from your relationship. You don't have no relationship because you're being phony, right? That's not really there. You know what I mean? So just be honest. I mean, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. Brian?
Well, I'm just thinking back to one of the classes I was in, and this, I think, will drive that point home completely when you were talking about handle ties on single pole breakers. And the Cutler Hammer guy was in the audience and started arguing with you, and he had to make the video and send it to you, and you're like, I still don't believe him, but like I was saying, handle ties will trip the breakers, and just kind of teasing everybody but saying, you know what, I was wrong. Clearly the Cutler Hammer guy was right, and you were just, it drew the audience into the moment to say, you know what, hey, we all know we make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes every day. And this guy's not trying to hide it. He's right there and like, okay, well, like I was saying.
Well, what Brian was saying was that I'm doing a code change seminar, and we're talking about put single pole breakers using handle ties, identified handle ties. And somebody said, well, what's the purpose of that? And I said, well, it's just for a disconnect. It's not that if you have a fault in one of the two breakers, it would open the other, because it won't. And the Cutler Hammer guy is sponsoring this code change seminar, and he's raised his hand. He goes, no, Mike, he goes, our breakers, if one breaker trips, it turns off the other one. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Mike, pretty sure our breakers, when one trips, it takes the other one. I'm like, no, it doesn't. He said, but Mike, it's our product. I'm like, I don't care. It doesn't. So he calls the factory in the morning. I'm doing a seminar. The factory makes a video. Actually, I have the video. I probably could play that video. We'll see if we can play that video in a little while, get it set up. He plays the video showing a single pole breaker with a handle tie with another breaker, and then showing the fault of one breaker, how it trips both breakers. I'm like, that was a video. You can do anything you want to in a video. I don't believe that. And then I go on and say, as I was saying, some breakers, because I know square Ds don't, but some breakers, such as a Cutler Hammer, CH, whatever it is, will trip it. And so Brian was at that class showing how I knew I was right, arguing with the guy who actually makes the product. I mean, that's always funny, right? When you're arguing with somebody who obviously knows more than what you know inside here, and then they prove you're wrong, like they obviously you are wrong. And it was just like, hey, I'm wrong. Not a problem. And if you're a good instructor, I had a call from a guy. He said, Mike, what do you ask me? Oh, yeah. Do you include the water heater in the appliance for dwelling units? For the appliance calculations, where you have 4 or more appliances, you take a 75% demand factor. I think it's 220.53. I said, well, yeah. He said, oh, no. He says, I've never done that. I've always taught otherwise. I said, look, there is not a person on the planet that would say you don't include a water heater with the 4 more appliances and 220.53. You have to. And he went around and around and around. And sometimes some people will just never agree because, see, he was a teacher. And he had a student. He said, well, I had this guy, this student in the class, and he went online, and he went to your forum, and this and that, you know what I mean? And so he's trying to make me look like an idiot. I'm thinking to myself, you're not making you look like an idiot. You're making yourself look like an idiot. Because the guy I'm giving you the information. So you got to be comfortable with yourself to realize you will be saying something wrong in class. Am I right about that, guys?
Absolutely.
Fact. Yes.
Well, and I think, this slide says, to not hide your weakness. And indeed, I would say to somewhat embrace it because it's, you've got to know that in a class, as it relates to everything you're teaching about, you might be the smartest guy in the room. But you're not the smartest guy in the room for every single individual topic. You know what I mean? Right. On point A, somebody in that room knows more about point A than you do. And on point B, somebody else probably knows more about point B than you do. You know what I mean? But you need to know that. And you need to accept it and even embrace it. Some of the best classes that I've ever been in as a student have been when you've got a room full of experts and the instructor knows that and they embrace it. And they say, look, I know about, series rated systems. I could talk about that, but this dude with Busman, he knows more about it than anybody. Stand up and tell us a little bit about it. Those are fantastic classes. You get so much knowledge. And as an instructor, boy, why would you ever try to hide that? Why would you ever try to not give that to the student? That's the best knowledge that you could possibly provide.
I equate that to a spectrum of thousands of lines. Eric, like you said, we'll never know it all. Right. I mean, there's millions and millions of slices of lines of information. Is that right? And I know a lot of these lines and slices. But in a classroom, there is somebody on a specific slice that actually had an experience, actually had a single pole breaker with a handle tie connected to another one, and the one faulted and it took out the other one. They knew that for a fact. My experience was square D. It just goes limp on the other side. The way the mechanism, it wasn't that way. So I didn't have that slice. And what you're saying is that, listen, I got a streamer. I was recording this. We're getting feedback from streamers. Here's the question, Mike. So how do you show your vulnerability, yet be seen as a knowledgeable or at least worthy of teaching the class? This is an important point. You better be ready to teach the class 100% and realize there is stuff that you were teaching that you don't totally 100% know. Mm-hmm. And then you got to be willing to recognize, and I mean, I tell you what, one of the most not embarrassing, one of the most intimidating moments of my class, of my time, I'm teaching a class, and Fred Hartwell comes in that sits in my class. And Fred Hartwell has got to be one of the smartest persons on the planet in so many levels, okay? And he knows code, okay? And he knows the history and everything like that. I'm teaching my class, doing all fine, and all of a sudden, Fred Hartwell walks in. I'm like, man, I better be right, because I know this guy knows a lot of slices, and I hope there's not a slice he knows that I don't know. But when I get into those areas that I know that, he's on the code panel, so I know this was a rule that he probably proposed. Right. And I'd say, Fred, can you tell us about this? You don't have to be you're the facilitator, right? You're the conductor. You don't have to play every single instrument inside there. And so that's an important part, is to be yourself. And if you don't know, you don't know. But listen, somebody else knows. Hey, here's what I tell people. You got an iPhone, you got an iPad, go on the internet right now and find out for me in class. Tell us what the right answer is.
Well, and this kind of goes back to remembering that it's not all about you. So when you're saying, hey, I have an expert in the room, Fred, tell us about this. Yeah, you are saving face, and you're not having to lie your way through it or try to make anything up, which you shouldn't do. But you're not only saving face, you're actually giving the student a fantastic experience, because it is about them. And what better way to teach the students than to defer and say, listen, I can't answer your question, but Eric can, so let's let Eric answer it, you know?
Brian?
Well, and, you know, I actually agree with you and take it a step further. One of the things I teach all of my apprentices, it doesn't matter if you're a journeyman or a master electrician or the guy that owns the company, it's knowing what you don't know and how to get the information to the people that need it, that makes you a master electrician, that makes you the top cream of the crop kind of guy. And I think we have that responsibility as instructors. You know, we need to perpetuate the best possible information however we need to do it.
You know what I'm thinking as a slide? Oh, Eric, Ryan, Eric?
Yeah, the one word that keeps going through my mind is credibility.
Yep.
You know, and so when you're teaching in front of class, the last thing, the one thing you never want to do is you never want to snowball or speculate or anything like that. If you are honest with the class and you just say, hey, you know what, I don't know that. Is there anyone else who knows that? What you're showing the class is when they ask you a question and you don't know it, you're just going to say that, and so therefore you have credibility. So when you are speaking, there's a lot more trust.
You know what I'm thinking? I think probably 99% of the time, I've always been totally prepared for the class, okay? But I do remember, and I can't visualize a moment, but I do remember times that maybe I did not look at my slides. I hadn't taught that particular topic in a little while, and when the slide came up, wasn't 100, and once you fall behind psychologically, at least for me, teaching a class, you probably will never catch up because your mind is thinking, dang, I can't believe that. You're thinking about that, and then of course, now you're afraid because if I got confused on my slide on that one because I should have looked at it the night before. Oh, this wasn't the venue. I shouldn't have used that slide, but now I'm in the middle of this, and now I keep falling behind. So my point is this. Because I'm prepared, I'm comfortable knowing what I know, and what I don't know, I'm comfortable saying, I don't know, but we can find an answer to that. I can see, however, there's probably a lot of people out there, that don't prepare for the class. They get into the room, it's through the motions, somebody challenges them about something, they're really not prepared for the class. They probably really don't even know the material. They're speculating. They're making statements, and oh my gosh, in today's world, especially with today, a Mike Holt in a class, you'd be dead. A Ryan Jackson in the class, I don't know how you guys are, but I'll kill you. Oh, yeah. To me, if you're the teacher, for a fact, you better be right. Let me tell you what bothers me, because if you're wrong, that means you're teaching. I don't care that you're wrong personally. I care that you're having information go to these people, because this information now is going to be passed to somebody else that is wrong. So I'm going to challenge you. And I would say 90% of the times when I really, really, really challenge a fine point, I'm wrong. That really ticks me off, because I'm like, oh, Brian?
These are your best friend and your worst enemy in class, because when you're wrong, there's going to be somebody on this thing right here, and they're going to be like, excuse me, sir.
Yeah. Take a look at the Cutler Hammer catalog.
Yeah.
It specifically
It's part
says
number.
that.
Oh, yeah. Do you remember that?
Exactly. So how can you have credibility but yet be vulnerable? Well, if you're not prepared, right, you don't know your material, then you're not credible. Then your vulnerability just simply shows what? You're not prepared. You're not believable. And the moment you make one statement that's not a fact, man, you're dead. Because people like me, we're like watching. We're looking for every single word, because you're just now saying BS, Brian.
Well,
Brian?
and sometimes you have to give an answer and you're not certain that you're correct. And that's okay, as long as you tell them that. You know, when somebody asks you a question, you've got to be honest. You got to say, listen, I'm not positive. And I'm speaking a little bit out of my comfort zone, but this is what I think. But there is a very real chance that I'm wrong. They need to know that. It's only fair to them, and if you don't tell them that, you will lose credibility. You know, like you have to be honest. That's the bottom line.
Inspire the student to change their lives. We got to start with a goal. And I would let them know if I'm going to class, I'm here to make a difference in your life. I'm here to start you in your path, whatever it's going to be. And I always use estimating. The title estimate, teach a class estimating. That's my excuse, really, because people like I get estimated, is to teach you business skills. Because if I can teach you business skills using the word estimating, well, then I can do that way. You know, so when I'm looking at something, looking, what's my goal? I want you to make sure that you do safe installation. So we'll teach you code. But I'm focusing on the little comma that changed on this rule change, which meant absolutely nothing. But it's a rule that I want to have an excuse to justify, to talk to you about. Other big code changes, which is not a safety issue, I might brush by it. Where this one, I'm going to spend time on something because I get the excuse. Because I'm trying to make sure if people can feel confident to be able to do their works, that it's going to be a safe installation, because everybody wants to make it a safe installation, then that's my goal. So I'll let them know we're working together as a team. Let's get a goal here. Let's get a total goal here. It's all about them. We talked about how I was in the 80s. Get them involved, get them relevant. Make them feel part of the team. We're working together. Keep it fun. Tease and play. Here's one of the guys, this is a class of 600 people, and brought him up. He was talking about some things. I can't remember exactly what it was. But we had a great time. People enjoy that. You can see it. Look at my face. I'm having a great time. You know, what do you think the people are doing? I'm smiling up there. What do you think when you see this picture and you see my face? Does it make you kind of smile also?
Yeah.
So look how my body language, look at my contact with the person. I mean, that's real. This is not I'm just that kind of guy, you know. Look, my hand is touching him here. My hand is touching him over here. I mean, I'm smiling at the guy. I'm having a good time. Everybody's having a great old time. It's a relationship. He's comfortable. I mean, it's not easy being in front of a group of 600 people when you're not a presenter. It's not even easy being a presenter. He's comfortable enough. What? Brian, Eric, you guys have been in my class. You see people come up and speak because I make them feel comfortable. I protect them, that they can come back and they can give information. In other words, it's more, here's an example of how I'll be incredible. Talking about the real life examples, what have you. I don't have to give a real life example. I can get somebody to come up in the class to give my real life example. It's a lot more powerful for him. I can't remember what the story was he was talking about, but whatever it is that he came up to me and he said something. I said, listen, could you do me a favor after break? Would you come up here and say that to the class? Because I know if he says that to the class, they will embrace that 10 times more than Mike Holt. Yeah, Mike Holt, it's a tie, yeah, like he really connects what we're talking about here. Mike Holt. They don't realize, no, I was an electrician. I mean, I'm still an electrician because you're never not an electrician.